It is cold. That's why I'm wearing this. My office, they haven't fully put on the heat, and we had below freezing with frost on the ground this morning, which was a surprise. It's a little early, but anyway, that's my technical question. But all right, good afternoon, Sebastian. I see that we have October, and as I was saying, we have frost on the ground in upstate New York. I don't know what it's like. You're in the Dolomites, right? You're in the Dolomites.
I'm finally back in the mountains. After 6 long months by the sea, I'm back where I belong, and I'm so happy.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Do you have frost yet, like us? I don't know.
Oh yeah, at night, definitely.
Okay, yeah. Well, let's get to it. Number one, CDR moves forward. The world of CDR hasn't yet gone away. Let's see. EU cracks open the door to the global south. What is the EU doing? And it's actually probably not intentional, right? As what I read.
I mean, it's kind of a recurring topic. We've spoken about it before, but it's frankly the biggest thing happening in European climate policy right now, which is the debate negotiation around its 2040 climate target. And it's a huge debate. We spoke previously about kind of all the repercussions that had beyond climate circles because of how it was managed. But now it's frankly just the lines have been drawn, the parties have taken their stance, and I mean, it doesn't look pretty. The far right would like to get rid of it altogether. The center right, which is the majority party, wants to please the kind of far right votership, right, and is kind of leaning towards that position, but not all the way. So they're kind of pushing for a lot of limitations and conditions. And the center and the left, they don't have as much power in this discussion. So it's a pretty intense fight right now. And one of the big, I guess, flexibilities that are being introduced by the right are international credits. And so that's why it's kind of comes from an unexpected place. They are doing it because they want to water down climate ambition, right? They want to, let's not put any burden on domestic industry. Let's just use some cheap credits from abroad. Now, this is it's 3%, but it's 1990 levels. And so it's up to 800 megatons in the 2030s. It's a huge amount. It's actually more like a third, if not more, of the overall job. And now the big question is, will it be cheap crap credits or will it be quality, durable removals from the global south? And this is where it gets really interesting for CDR, for the Global South CDR Coalition. We had Fiona Mugambi on from Octavia to discuss this, because it's a huge opportunity if we can embed the right quality standards in this discussion.
Mm-hmm. Key in the right quality standards. But Kenya is leading the way in a lot of this too. So I'm sure Fiona covered that
They're doing a great job.
Right?
Yeah. She's from Octavia. She's also very active in Carbon Removal Kenya in the Global South CDR Coalition. She's somebody who's wearing a lot of hats and really trying to push beyond Kenya. But the challenge is just durable CDR credits are expensive. That's probably not. We're going to push for it, but I doubt that there will be a restriction to durable CDR in what comes out at the end of the day.
Right. All right. Well, we'll keep track of that because that will definitely evolve. Number two, we have the CRCF's next contenders make waves. So who are they? Who are the next?
Again, CRCF, for any listener. Yeah, I mean, for anyone who listens to this or views this, they will have heard us talk a lot about the carbon removal and carbon farming regulation. I would still say the most important piece of CDR legislation in the world. It's the first kind of government certification of durable removals. There's already a DAC specs and biochar methodology that's basically done. It will be finished by this year. It's going to go live next year. Very exciting. I'm sure we're going to talk about it. But now they did a workshop on the next wave. And they did one on enhanced rock weathering and ocean alkalinity enhancement. And then there's going to be one on mineralization and direct ocean capture next year. And from these four, they're essentially going to pick one or two to proceed. My gut is it's going to be mineralization first and then enhanced rock weathering, just because those are the most mature out of these. But we will see. And they had a workshop. They released some technical working papers, which were excellent beforehand, that really captured where the technology is at, where the market is at. And then it was an interesting workshop. A lot of civil society pushback, a lot of industry voices, just to kind of see where EAW and OAE are at. But yeah, let's see where it goes next.
I mean, it's quite advanced, I would think, right? If you could get OAE into that, given how much lead time they need for policy changes and things like that.
I guess
I
the
found that
challenge is
interesting.
that to develop a CSCF methodology, you need a certain level of certainty, um, and then it will take a few years to get it done. But you can't really start that process if you're missing that certainty. And it's not just that; it's also that, frankly, I don't see. I think it's going to be really, really hard for OAE just because it's open system, it's oceans. We heard it in the workshop. There's
Right.
so many NGOs that as soon as you talk about the oceans, they push against you. International law with the London Protocol is against you because it's considered dumping of waste into the ocean if you're doing OAE right now. So it's going to be very hard. I think direct ocean capture, I think, is much easier to do
Yes.
politically.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I think there's still some way to go for OAE.
Yes, for sure. And I think that's why I mentioned that I'm glad they're considering it, at least, because if it's in
Yeah,
the mix, they'll solve some of the problems, right? Moving on to number
exactly.
3. This is what I brought up last month, but the store wars. And I will be
Yeah.
talking to Claire Nelson about her perspective on all this. But this is fascinating to me, how it becomes an issue, a political football about how much is actually available underground. But maybe it's more complicated than I thought. I don't know.
This was really weird because I mean, for those who don't know, there was a study published in Nature,
Right.
and it's I mean, the main takeaway was they analyzed how much geological storage there is globally, and they concluded that there was way less than originally thought, and that it's only 1,400 gigatons, and that was picked up by a bunch of media, including the FT, with headlines like CCS will not solve climate change, basically. And it was all wrong because the idea is never, and everyone latched onto it, but the idea was never that DAX or BEX or even CCS would solve climate change. It's a contributing solution, right?
Exactly. It wouldn't
And
take the
and
whole of
so
it and put it underground. Yeah.
and others, I love what some people did, that they essentially rewrote the headline and they were like, we've got enough storage for 200 years. And even that is very restrictive read. There's probably way more storage because they use very conservative estimates on a lot of different variables. So yeah, the punchline is also there's enough storage even with very conservative estimates for 200 years. I think we can
Yes,
work
and
with
I
that.
absolutely, and I've encountered this, by the way, way earlier than even Legion 44. David Wallace Wells, who's a big writer in the States, who wrote Uninhabitable Earth, was rather new to climate and was running around LA doing, book signings and meetings, private salons, and all that. And he was going on and on about how there was no storage. And one of them that I was at, I raised my hand and said, yes, there is. And I found it really interesting that they were out front already trying to message about no storage and no room, which to me was like trying to end run CCS and CDR, and basically saying this is just a dead end. And why I think it's again that whole like renewables only perspective, but nothing new here. And I was very surprised that it reared its head again all these years later, because I would say this happened at least 6 years ago, because before I moved from Los Angeles. So this will come
Yeah,
back around. So this
it
needs to
will.
be
It
settled
will.
science. It needs just to be settled science somehow. But in any case, fascinating. Um, so number 4, debunking the biochar pricing myth. So what's going on there?
So over and over again, it happens probably every 3 months. I come across a major publication on carbon removal, and I see projections for biochar that say biochar is going to cost €50 a ton or $50 or whatever they say. Basically, that level. And every time I know that that's bullshit, but and it irritates me every time. So this time I looked at what they referenced, and then I looked at what those guys referenced, and then I finally found kind of the top 4 or 5 papers they could reference over and over again. I looked at the assumptions in those papers, and now I understand, because they basically, all these studies keep referencing the same academic studies, which keep using, often combined, a whole set of completely unrealistic assumptions. For example, negative feedstocks costs. Like, no, you either get it for free in the best case, or you pay for biomass. You don't get paid to take biomass right now if you produce biochar. and like things like that, and also exorbitant amounts that you can earn from all sorts of things like agricultural benefits. You don't earn money right now from agricultural benefits in biochar, and so when you put those together, you end up with crazy low amounts. But if you ask the industry, they're like, it's never going to go below 150 in Europe, and unlikely below 100 in the global South. And so I just put this together to put it out there, and I think 2 weeks later, the next study came out. And it had exactly the same thing. And this time I could just be like, come on, guys, like, here's a post, please stop using this. But I understand, because there's no other data to use for 2040 and 50. So it's tough. If you're writing a study and, I don't know, you're BCG, you're commissioned to write a report on how much biochar is going to cost in 2050, you have to produce something. And the only thing you can reference are the studies that are out there. So I don't blame them. But I think we should be open about the limitations of that data, because it keeps biting biochar in the butt. And when I shared it, actually, what was interesting, a lot of other technologies replied with similar concerns around assumptions that are being made for bio-CCS or for DAX and all of that. And so I think this is a recurring issue in the industry.
And the authors of this report are from the biochar industry or outside?
No. They're like consultancies usually.
Right. Exactly. Interesting. Let's keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Who the author is. All right. Number 6, US DOE is on a canceling spree. And I have for our 11th today, I have something interesting that I read this morning, which glimmer of hope.
Excellent.
Go ahead.
Looking forward to it.
Glimmer.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically not allowed to use the word green anymore at the DOE. I mean, it's funny until you realize just how ridiculous and devastating that is, right? So climate change, sustainability, green, not allowed on a not wished words list anymore. I think closer to home, it's now pretty obvious that the two DAC hubs, the big DAC hubs, 500 million plus for Heirloom, for 1.5 Climeworks, that they got cancelled, and that is a big blow, very big blow to the industry. Like there was kind of that hope that they would be exempted from this canceling spree, but they're not. There's been some good industry reaction, but I think DAC, with the exception of 1.5, is pretty dead, right? Because unless you can make it work with 45Q only, which you might if, again, you're 1.5 and you have a lot of cash yourself. But if you're someone like Heirloom or Climeworks, you're not going to build huge facilities in the US anymore. You can't finance it.
And it's interesting because I've been a little research. There's been some, I think it was Occidental that bought Carbon Engineering. Was it Occidental?
Yeah, exactly. That's the 1.5 one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the 1.5. Yeah. So unless you're inside the oil company infrastructure, you're not surviving, like you said. How is Climeworks doing?
I mean, two things that they're doing, I think. On the DAC side, they're just gravitating towards other geographies, like the Middle East, right? That's one clear decision for them. And the other thing is they are trying to diversify away from DAC, because I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about DAC, but DAC is going to have a very tough time. Out of all the major pathways, DAC, probably because it had the biggest hype, is going to enjoy. It's going to suffer the hardest right now. And that's why they are a big brand, and they're trying to use the brand to diversify away from DAC into not just nature-based, but basically becoming a marketplace, a broker, right? Just to get more extra revenue through other channels.
Yeah, through biochar sales of trees. In fact, I was at Climate Week when I was there. I went because my next film is going to be called Sanctum Verde, and it is about nature removals and trees and forests. And I had a lot of strong movement there. And I did go to the Terraformation meeting, and Climeworks was there talking about their removal portfolio that included trees, which I thought was really interesting, and obviously a necessary pivot. Yeah, fascinating. But anyway, canceling the word green is not going to, back to number 6. I don't think canceling the word green is going to stop innovation. So
it's not, but it's basically, I mean, the question is, what will happen, in the future? what will happen in the next administration, and will the consequences of what happens now will you be able to get over it? I think what's really devastating about this is that this was a bipartisan effort, right? Like so far, the understanding was DEC hubs, bipartisan, really solid backing from Republican states. That will survive. If even that can't survive, it's ideological game over for anything climate related, basically. Like,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it's true.
So
if
it's
Texas,
a tough
if
blow
Texas
on that
can't prevail, then yeah, you have a problem. Interesting. All right, moving on to China, who does not have these issues. Number 7, China, the silent carbon giant. And what do you mean by that?
I mean, China for me is just honestly, it's the country that I'm most curious about in the world when it comes to carbon removal, because if we think about what they've done for renewables, it's just insane. They've overtaken everyone. They're deploying more renewables than probably the rest of the world combined, right? And at a rate that is we can't even perceive. It's crazy. And I don't see why they wouldn't do it in other areas. And on climate, like they released the NDC, the Nationally Determined Contribution for Paris now. They got a lot of criticism for it because it's not as ambitious as others. But you know what I think is China under promises and over delivers over and over again. Whereas we over promise and under deliver over and over again. And so I'm almost certain that they won't just achieve what they are saying they will by 2035, but they will over deliver. And similarly, I did a deep dive finally into their carbon market. And what's mind blowing is their emission trading system is already 6 times bigger in terms of emissions than the European one and covers 16% of all global emissions. Like 1 in 6 tons emitted in the world are regulated by the Chinese ETS. It's just insane. And right now the cost per ton is very low. But they already have carbon credits in there. They have plans to kind of essentially increase the cost over time. And I have strong reasons to believe that the Chinese ETS will be the biggest thing in carbon. It's a matter of time. It might be in 10 years, but it will be.
It must be, from an American standpoint, it must be so nice to be able to enact policy without all the drama that's outside of the actual subject at hand. So, you know what I mean? Like
of course,
we are slowed down in the United States by so many other outside concerns to basic progress on anything from transportation to energy to, some of the pressing issues. We're just distracted. And it's a huge problem as an American to watch us being slowed down because of extraneous non-practical concerns. But in any case,
just one plug here. It's unlikely, but if anyone listens to this who has more insights on China and carbon removal, reach out to me. I'm trying to reach out my feelers. It's really difficult. I had a couple of biochar producers reach out, which is nice. But if you know about carbon removal in China, please reach out. I'd love to talk to you.
I'll put his all your contact information is in the notes. Okay, number 8, NOAA pioneers powerful ponderings. Yes, NOAA McQueen did come out with a paper.
They were in your documentary, right?
Correct. Yes, in Airloop
I remember
with
NOAA.
Shashank. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was great. Noah's fantastic. Noah's a really smart person, co-founder of Heirloom, now moved on to Carbon 180, where they lead the science and innovation team. And they had launched a Substack, which is really good. I actually posted today about all the fantastic Substacks in CDR out there because there's a couple of really good ones. And I love Substack because it's just a longer form. And there's people who devote enough time to it to make it useful. But NOAA writes very thoughtful reflections about how we should talk about carbon removal, for example, and some of the problems in the industry. And so, give him a follow if it's of interest. And
number 9, what we need for CDR at industrial scale. Neil Hacker. All right.
Neil Hacker from Isometric, he just wrote a really good piece. I'm a macroeconomist who studied industrialization and industrial policy, and so it kind of it's very close to home and to my heart when somebody writes about industrial policy. And he basically wrote this piece about why, if we really are to scale carbon removal, we need to have policy that's not about climate. It needs to be industrial policy. It needs to have broad coalitions behind it. It needs to essentially convey a message of economic growth that might not have anything to do with climate. And he just elaborated on that in a really nice way and gave some analogies, especially from renewable energy, and why renewable energy succeeded. Not because, only the Greenpeace activists got their way. No, because we had broad coalitions behind it. And we're not there yet. And so I thought that was really thoughtful. And actually, I'm working on a very big piece on the same topic on industrialization, CDIs and industrialization path for the global south, which I'll release before COP. And so it really resonated, and I'm sure I'm going to invite him for conversation at some point, because again, I think that's an angle that will convince policymakers much more broadly than what we tend to do right now.
Yeah, I see CDR as moving conceptually, and that's kind of what I tried to do with Legion 44. It's conceptually moving into materials, into all these other sort of core pathways in industrialization or modern industrialization, right? Rather than making it about climate. That's what I find interesting, right? It's about how we power and create and build. So, right? And in a different way. Anyway, and last but not least, we have 10 Clash of the CDR Titans. I notice Tito is there in the picture.
I'm very excited about this one. So we are taking our CDR Policy Scoop showdowns to a live event for the first time. So we're doing it at Carbon Unbound in front of a live audience while live streaming it to LinkedIn and then releasing it as a podcast. Don't get me started on the production challenges. Some people are losing a couple of years on that, but it's exciting. And we've got, I think, an amazing topic, which is voluntary versus compliance markets and what will actually scale carbon removals. And we've got, honestly, probably the two best people I could wish for this debate, which is Evet Tame for compliance markets and Tito Jankowski for voluntary carbon markets. They're going to go head to head. I'm going to have the pleasure to keep things fair as a moderator. And there's going to be a vote, as always. And so you're very excited for that. So make sure to register or to say hi, and obviously attend if you're in London for Carbon Unbound.
Well, I think it's fascinating that, if you live in America, obviously voluntary probably is the only way you can go, because the moment you force people into anything in this country, eventually, that there's a massive reaction. And so hence innovation, making it attractive or making it competitive enough that it makes it a no-brainer is where we have to go if America's going to adopt it, right? But in Europe, it's a different culture and more willing to comply, I guess, with rules that make sense. But anyway, I will be watching that. Sounds very, very loving that. I just want to mention my 11th. Sometimes I don't have anything I want to mention, but I woke up this morning and on my feed, there was an announcement that the Trump administration is leaning heavily into geothermal. And they are opening up land for geothermal development in the West. And so I find that to be fascinating, because in the article, which I can put a link, I think this is Bloomberg, yep. So because of the AI demand for energy, the Trump administration said that they are interested in alternative sources of energy and want to lead into geothermal, which is interesting.
I mean, all for it. There's especially kind of that ubiquitous geothermal. If we can ever get the drilling done in a way that is actually, effective and not too expensive, it sounds like a dream come true, right? It's like nuclear fusion.
That's what they mentioned. Yeah, they mentioned that the drilling technology, because of the fracking, the drilling has become cheaper and easier and more modular. I'm not pitching this. I'm just mentioning it because that was something we thought we would track. And so, especially for DAC, given the experience of Kenya and Iceland, maybe DAC will reemerge because we'll have more geothermal resources. Just wondering.
If this works out, I'm all for it. And anything the administration does that doesn't promote fossil fuels as an energy source is welcome, right? So, all for it.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's it from my end. I thought that was really interesting. And I don't know. I guess November's coming along and we're coming towards the end of the year. And yeah, it'll be interesting to do a recap coming in the next 2 months about what we thought we did this year for our
Yeah,
discussion.
sure. I love those kind of episodes. By the way, like I'm very happy to do looking back, looking forward kind of thing if you want. And I
let's
think
do
that would
it.
be useful to listeners. And thanks for keeping this up. We've been able to do it every month, which I'm proud of.
And we are getting more and more subscribers and downloads too. So as we
Excellent.
grow,
That's what
it'll
we
be
like.
interesting. All right. Take care, Sebastian. Take care. Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.